WWF King of the Ring, 1997. Why the f*** is Farooq in the main event? Why is Crush on this event at all? Why are the tag team champions facing each other? Why does Paul Bearer have red hair? A lot of questions that this show poses. But it's a good one, and hey, Triple H is finally out of the doghouse. Oh, he's such a lying But there's a lot to get into. So you sit right there and strap in and strap on to the Apron Bump Podcast.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock this. Let's get started. Yeah.
What's up, everybody? Howdy. Welcome to the Apron Bump Podcast. I am your host, the hardest part of the ring, Kyle. How's everybody doing today? Hope everybody's doing well. We got a little King of the Ring on our hands, ladies and gentlemen. King of the Ring 1997 from the World Wrestling Federation. Anything could happen in the World Wrestling Federation. That's what I've been told. We got a pretty, it's a weird show. This one's a weird one. I don't know if it's good or bad or right in the middle. We'll get into it, I guess, later, but a very pivotal show in a lot of ways, weirdly. It's a theme throughout the episode and how we talk about this show. There's a lot of seeds being planted on King of the Ring 1997. A lot of seed being spilled. If you know what I'm saying. And nothing to stop that seed. I don't know. I was trying to think of a cum joke, but I fucking suck. I think we should get into this bad boy, huh? But like I mentioned, we got Farooq versus Undertaker main event for the WWF title. We got Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold in almost a hidden gem of a match. I never really hear anybody talk about this one, but it is something. It is something. We got the King of the Ring. We got the semifinals and then the finals. We got Nation Turmoil. We got the Hart Foundation. We got Sid, Ahmed Johnson. Who's more wet? We talk about it. Maybe we get to that answer. There's something on my camera. There's a pistachio shell on my camera. How long has that been there? Any hoozle. Got a lot of fun stuff. Got a lot of fun stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff to cook up. Speaking of cooking, got the chef, Will Gray, back on the show. Always a good time with my boy Billiam. Go check out Will on the Botched Spots and Chair Shots podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as live. YouTube, Twitch, all that stuff. I'll put the description I'll put all of his information. Very sleepy boy right now. I'll put all of the information in the description below. Go check him out. He's a hilarious dude. A lot of great insight. Has a lot of fun guests on his show. Gets into the current stuff. Touches on some old stuff. They do fun segments, trivia, all that type of stuff. And it's all a great live experience. So go get in the chat whenever he goes live. And it's a good old time. Go check him out. Check me out at Apron Bump on all the social medias. Join the Discord. Hey, if you like this type of episode, you like mid-late 90s wrestling, well, go check out that, which will also be in the description. I've been covering every show from WWF, WCW, and ECW chronologically in one timeline. So if you want to check that out, check it out wherever you listen to podcasts, YouTube, playlists on YouTube, or you can go to apronbump.com and go to the episodes tab. You could select Wrestling Wars of the 90s, and that'll bring you to all of those episodes I've done chronologically with various guests. You could even just select WWF New Generation, and that'll bring you right to it. We're about to end. I think we might almost be at the end of the New Generation era. Actually, you probably are. I haven't really thought about that. I guess we're kind of in the Attitude Era at this point, huh? That's debatable. But go check that out. Why don't you? Speaking of those three companies, WWF, WCW, ECW, all of those companies are cooking at this point, but who is cooking the hottest? Well, you're going to have to tune in to the end of this episode where the hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues, where we pit these three companies against each other and see who's the best. We look at the best and the worst matches, characters, storylines, TV, pay-per-views, all that stuff, right? There's a whole scoring system. We got a scoreboard. We'll get into it. Actually, no, I'll give you a little tease here. What is the current score there? We got WCW is currently in the lead with 29 points. ECW with 25 points in second. And in last place, we got the WWF with 4 measly points. But will this show give us a swing here? Perhaps. You're just going to have to tune in. At the end of the episode, where we dive into this, baby, we'll grade the show. Like I said, we'll look at the best, the worst, all that stuff. So like I mentioned several times, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And hey, I think I've babbled enough. Let's get into this bad boy, shall we? WWF King of the Ring 1997 with myself and Will from Botched Spots and Chair Shots.
Are like if the communists won World War II. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if I do. Wait, hold on, give that to me one more time.
It's like banana ball is like if the communists won World War II, and that's what
like everybody gets to participate and everybody gets to have. I say, I kind of get what you're saying now.
It's dope. 2-hour time limit, no matter what. Batters can't leave the batter's box. If a fan catches a foul ball, it counts as an out. You can steal first base, but you can't steal second base unless all 9 players touch the ball first. And if they touch the ball before you get to first base, you don't get second for free. Like, it sounds like a lot of crazy rules until you watch the game itself. And I was like, holy shit. I would watch Major League Baseball 7 days a week if it looked like banana ball all the time.
Because my wife's been trying to go, and tickets are super sought out. You got to win it. You have to get into a lottery to be in a lottery to get to, which I'm sure you know. Is that how you got the tickets?
No, the boss bitch, fortunately, has the big girl job, and her company has a suite. So we got to slide in. So we didn't have to go through the red tape. It kind of worked out in our favor.
Damn. Well, I'll have to hit you up at some point if I'm ever in the area. I have to go see some bananas.
She and I were talking about it on Saturday night. We were like, the company gets free tickets to every event that comes to Nissan Stadium because of the suite, right? So we were like, think about it in 2 or 3 years when WrestleMania comes to Nashville. The next time we get a big PLE at Nissan Stadium, she's only been with this company for a year, and she's finally moved the way up a couple rungs in the ladder where they came to her on Friday and was like, hey, you want these free tickets to see the Bananas play? Yes, we do.
Damn, and those tickets aren't cheap either, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it was a ton of fun. We will definitely be going back, sweet or not, because I would like to experience it in the crowd.
Right.
The chants and the screaming and the dancing, and there's so much involved in this show. Being in a box was almost like watching it on TV a little bit. You didn't really get to experience it as much. There were points where I wanted to walk out into the crowd just so I could be more of a part of it.
Right.
Overall, though, 10 out of 10, dude. We'll definitely be going back.
Because you couldn't get anybody out from the suite, right?
No.
So,
nah, not a chance. Plus the weird, baseball diamonds set up on a major league, in an NFL stadium. So, the right field fence was 50 feet behind the first baseline. But then the left field fence was from the 45-yard line to the goal line on the opposite end of the south end zone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you hit it to the right field line, you could hit a home run at 150 feet. But if you hit a home run going to the left field side, it would be 500 feet because you'd have to go the length of the football field.
Right. Hey, if anybody can hit a 500-foot home run, it's those goddamn Bananas.
Dude, those guys are nuts. Doing backflips and cartwheels and shit to catch baseballs and
I feel like it's almost bigger than the Major League Baseball.
They put 70,000 asses in seats in Nissan Stadium, bro. Even WWE couldn't sell out Nissan Stadium.
No, it's crazy.
WWE did 48 when they were there for SummerSlam a few years back, and the Bananas sold out 70,000 seats. The Titans don't even sell out 70,000 seats.
Well, I'll tell you what could sell out 70,000 seats is Crush versus Goldust. Am I right or am I wrong, William?
There was absolutely nothing about that, and I can't even go on. I forgot Crush was even in the Nation of Domination. Like, rewatching this, I was like, Crush was in the Nation.
Yeah, it becomes less and less white as time goes on, because I didn't know that they had PG-13 in there. They had somebody else. It was kind of a mixed bag of folks in the beginning, and as time goes on, we'll talk a lot about Farooq and his whole deal. They ain't never been a black champion, Vince. Why that is, or however he said it. That's not even an exaggeration, by the way. That's how he talks.
No, that's exactly how it sounded. I'm not even.
You thought Ron Simmons was in the room with us for a second.
It sounded like he was backstage. I was like, "Holy shit, you got Simmons for this episode?"
Damn. So, but yeah, King of the Ring '97, man. Just overall thoughts, vibes. I mean, what did this tickle your pickle? Is your pickle untickled? Well, give it to me.
When I look back at the Attitude Era, especially the older I've gotten, the more I realize, like, I watched that shit 90% of it with rose-colored glasses because I was teenager Will, like, watching it, and I was like, this is the coolest shit since sliced bread. Wrestling can't beat this. Now, 25 years later, I look at it and I'm like, this is really just a lot of copy and paste of what we're doing today in a lot of ways. Like, yeah. WWE hasn't really reinvented the wheel in a long time.
No, there's only like 3 or 4 different stories. They just you switch out the people and give it a little seasoning. No, you know about that, right?
Oh yeah, all the seasonings.
Marinades, perhaps a little sugar in there. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire
sauce.
But this one, this was kind of a middle of the road show for me. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't great per se. There is some interesting stuff though that I haven't really, because I didn't watch '97. This is a little bit before my time, before I got into wrestling, and I've never seen this show, really anything from the show before. I knew who won the King of the Ring, but that's pretty much all the information. I didn't know Shawn Michaels and Stone Cold had a match before the WrestleMania match, so that was news to me.
As tag champions, which was super cool. I forgot that even happened, that they held the belts together.
For sure. And of course, the King of the Ring tournament, we got the semifinals here. So we got the 2 semis and then the final. Where do you stand on, I guess, King of the Ring and Jet? Personally, I love it when they just have a King of the Ring pay-per-view and they have a bunch of tournament matches. I'd be fine if it was nothing but tournament matches on the pay-per-view. Just have that whole thing going. Where do you stand on that?
I love it. Looking ahead, we're in 97 now, but if you look ahead to Survivor Series 98 with the Deadly Games tournament, yes. Like, I love tournament-based wrestling. And that's one of my, when people hit, turning the dial ahead to 2025, when people hit Tony Khan a lot, they're like, tournament wrestling is lazy, blah, blah, blah. And they go off a lot about it. And I'm like, if you go back to the WWF in the 90s, they did a tournament, at least one tournament every year. And again, they added them into the Deadly Games stuff. And it was a regular occurrence back then. And I think when done right, they do give you a lot of organic stories you're not going to even see otherwise. Because you might get 2 people in a match that would never work together. But just because it's the tournament, you get them in there and you're like, holy shit, these guys can work.
Yeah, no, I love a yearly I don't want, like,
we don't need to have
nothing. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to have a tournament every other week.
Yeah.
But a year, the G1, Continental Classic, King of the Ring, each company has one a year. I'm locked in. And like you said, stories can branch out of it. It can create stories. And it just gives easy stakes to every match involved, which is what it's all about, right? So
yeah, win or go home. And that's the core of what wrestling is. You go back to the fucking Carney days, bro. Like, it was all about just winning a match to get money because that's what wrestlers did, right? And I feel like a tournament setting puts you back in that feel where it's like win or go home. What is the point of this? To win. And I think that's a core aspect of wrestling that gets left out these days. Let me yell at the clouds some more from my front porch. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I mean, you could also be fighting to prevent your manager from revealing a secret. You could fight for Black Power. You could fight for what else is on this card? I guess that's pretty much it, right?
There's tons of underlying stories here. You had Crush and going back to the Crush and Gold Dust thing. Like, Here's a little beef I have with this, okay? They
Give it
put
to me.
Crushing Goldust on this card, but didn't give us British Bulldog versus Goldust for the European title. You were on the Botch Bots and Chair Shots episode where we talked about the European title and how cool that was at this point. And like, it almost seemed as big as the IC title at some points. And it was like, so we got Crushing Goldust, but didn't get Goldust versus British Bulldog.
Well, Bulldogs embroiled and then the fight against those damn Americans, LOD and Sid. But I guess we'll get more into that. Shut the fuck up!
I know. Stupid dogs.
Hit that dog. Hit him in his stupid face. I'm just kidding. It's adorable. The Asian in me just came out a little bit. Sorry.
I heard it.
Yeah. But speaking about Asians, there's no Asians in this next match. We got, or the first match, I guess. We got a King of the Ring semifinal match opening the show here. We got Hunter Hearst Helmsley, accompanied by China, taking on a very, very moist Ahmed Johnson. Has there ever been a wetter wrestler than Ahmed Johnson?
No. Watching Ahmed work makes me go, holy shit, why was this man never world champion? And then I remember he could never be healthy for more than like 3 or 4 weeks at a time. He gets like one pay-per-view build and then he gets hurt and then he's gone for a couple months and then he comes back and does a great pay-per-view build and then gets hurt. And it's like, I feel like that was his career in a nutshell. And that sucks so bad for somebody that was as good as Ahmed Johnson was.
Dude, he was like, that's something that I'm noticing a lot watching these mid-late 90s shows is that like, you didn't need to do a lot to get a huge reaction. Ahmed Johnson didn't. He's out there. He's got the tight armbands. He's bulging. He pours water on his already sweaty body. He has 8 knee pads on for some reason.
The electrical tape. It looks like his whole arm's covered in electrical tape for some reason. I'm like, what does that even do?
I don't know how he gets blood to his brain with all this stuff squeezing his various. It's crazy.
Everything so he looks bulky as hell, and the dude's already built like a brick shithouse. Like he's huge.
God damn, it works. And I mean, that military press he did, like, not just pick him up, drop him. He did 3 or 4 reps of Hunter Hearst Helmsley, who at this point, he's probably, I don't know, 230, something, I don't know.
I think they built him in the 240s, but yeah. And then he still had the wherewithal to scoop it under and safely apply the move. And I'm like, this guy is brilliant. And then it's like, oh yeah, he's always fucking hurt.
That's really it, I guess, at the end of the day. I mean, he's the charisma's off the charts. The crowd loves him. The music, the moves. It wasn't a ton of different moves he did, but everything he did, the crowd was super into. Pretty short match here. Not a lot to it. The finish comes when Ahmed goes for the Pearl River plunge, but China distracts him, and Triple H takes advantage with a knee to the back and then a brutal-looking pedigree. Gee whiz, that was almost Paralyzed City right here. I don't know if Ahmed knew it was coming.
Spiked him.
So Triple H gets the win. But then Ahmed kind of just no-sells it and just chases Hunter to the back, which is, whatever. But it was fine for a while. I enjoyed seeing Ahmed Johnson on my screen. That was my really only takeaway.
When they move in the ring, something I noticed about it, and I don't know if the ropes were looser, if the guys are just bigger back then, when they would hit the ropes, there was one spot where Ahmed bounces off the ropes and he comes in for this huge elbow drop and Triple H rolls out of the way. And when he hits the ropes, he's so big and he hits the ropes with such force, it looks like the whole ring moves. And I feel like we don't have that in today's wrestling. Like the guys don't seem this big and powerful and menacing. And it might just be camera work. But I noticed it specifically in this match of how big they'd made Triple H and Ahmed Johnson look just in sheer size. And I feel like that was super cool. Like the way they were moving and slamming and just, they looked like they beat the shit out of each other for like an 8-minute match.
Those larger than life characters. Some may say that's a little more rare nowadays, but they're here, they're queer, and enjoy watching it back. But speaking of larger than life characters, we got another King of the Ring semifinal match. Mankind versus your boy Jerry Lawler, right? Local boy, right?
He's a local guy, right in my backyard, right down the road. Is
right there. He's probably in your backyard. Who knows?
He literally might be home. Yeah, no, really.
Is there an ice cream truck going by? He's probably there. But anyways, we got. By the way, one thing: the last match ended and it was like right to the next match, which I like. I feel like not to bring it back to current day stuff, but I feel like it's just like 20. It's like a sitcom's worth of time in between matches.
20 minutes between matches, so they remind you of why you want to watch this match.
Yeah, it's like you got me, guys. You already got me. Like, lay off. We got it. Merch, LFG, whatever. But so I enjoyed the pacing of this show, I guess in general. Just a little note I had there, but I
really enjoyed the promos. Sorry to cut you off.
No, I was going to ask you.
Each match, like Lawler or Mankind comes out and cuts a promo, then they cut to the back for Lawler before his entrance. And it again goes back that whole like shooting as they walk through Gorilla after they do an interview thing. Apparently they were doing that shit in the 90s and I just didn't remember it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I see so many of that, like I was saying at the very beginning, the cut and copy and paste from then till now. And it's like, I don't recognize that now. But now that I rewatch this old shit, I see that they're, what works.
Yeah, no, it really, they made an effort to solidify what both of their characters were before this match. Mankind's an interesting one because now we're going down this road here because he comes in initially, this unhinged dude in the boiler room, squealing like a pig. And he had that whole feud with The Undertaker, which was great, but now we're kind of shifting away from that. And on the Raws leading up to the show, I don't know if you remember this is when they did all those like video packages, like the interview with JR and stuff, like showing him as Dude Love and referring to his Cactus Jack days, like, are really humanizing Mankind at this point. Part of me, like, because it would go on to work out for him, but also there's another part of me is like, you had something really cool, I feel like, with that initial Mankind character. What are your thoughts on them kind of making him more relatable to the audience here?
I am a Mick Foley homer. In my opinions, Foley is my GOAT. He's my number one of all time, my personal favorite. Sure. That being said, when Mankind debuted in 96 in the brown suit, that 96 to 97 push, I always call it the Mason the Mutilator Mankind. Because when they brought him in for that first year, that's who they wanted him to be, was the boiler room, playing with rats, pulling your hair out kind of guy. By 97, we heard it in commentary and in the interview and the JR promo. They start bringing up his past work, his deathmatch work, his Cactus Jack, the various characters he plays, how Mrs. Foley's baby boy is a lot more than just the Mankind character. So I think this was that catalyst that built up from here, because if you think about what happened in 98 with Hell in a Cell, then The Rock at Deadly Games, and then January of 99, a year and a half later from where we're at now, Mankind wins his first title. So I feel like this is that point where they really start to test the waters to see if Foley can be the guy. And pushing him to the main event or to the finals here against Triple H, we'll get to that. Like, this was the point for Foley where it was the make it or break it moment for him in WWF, because Vince wasn't completely sold. Vince didn't like his work. He didn't think that he needed that kind of stuff in WWE. And JR and some of those guys were like, no, we need this guy. So for me, this was that catalyst point that really skyrocketed Mick Foley. The Mason the Mutilator character was phenomenal. If he didn't become more human, I don't think he would have ever won the world title. Bridging over and switching to the white shirt and the have a nice day and all the stuff like that. Had that shift never happened, Mason the Mutilator would have never been world champion, but Mankind in the white button down with the sweatpants did. You see what I mean? This was the beginning of that shift that led him to the world title.
That initial... No, you're right. I mean, I feel like that initial character, maybe the shelf life wasn't as long as what he would go on to be. And also just like the context of the time here in 97, we got the NWO going hot. ECW's doing a lot of reality-based storylines. I feel like there's WWF here is slow. They're getting away from the new generation. There's like that bridge kind of period here, mid 97. And because like him and Goldust and Undertaker all have very like, because Goldust had a similar thing going at this point. They were like talking about him as Dustin Rhodes and being
the natural,
Dusty's son.
whatever you call him, yeah.
And then Undertaker's like being very like he's like a sad boy Undertaker coming out. Like they're all being all these like supernatural ish characters are getting kind of normalized, which has its pros and cons, I guess.
They're making them seem more approachable and more human. And again, you look at the Undertaker going into the emo Taker days, like that eventually led to the fucking American Badass Taker and all of that. This was that weird like coming of age, ironically, since the WWE The WWF at the time was 20 years old at this point, since Vince, changed the name and started taking over. And they're still very much finding out who they are in this new version of sports entertainment.
Right. No, yeah. No, that's a great point. But this new version of sports entertainment, I don't know if I need Jerry Lawler in it per se in 1997. We got classic heel stuff from King here that to an extent always works. Like you mentioned
roasting the people in the crowd.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. Like he's just walking up to people. You're fat. You're gay. Whatever.
Yeah.
And then the match gets underway, and King keeps reaching into his singlet and allegedly has something in his fist, and then he'll hit Mankind and then put it back in his. Do you have any inside intel on what this object is?
It's a roll of quarters.
Oh, I didn't.
At least that's what it used to be. I don't know what he was using in '97, but that would be his thing. He'd keep him in there, he'd pull him out, he'd sock you and put him away because it's not as noticeable as like the brass knucks. You know what I mean?
Smart.
It's an old heel thing. They would whack you with them and they could hide them.
Had to be uncomfortable in that singlet though. He's just walking around with it, but
I don't know what the hell it was really, but I mean that would make sense. It wasn't brass knuckles, so I would assume it was probably a roll of quarters because that's what he used in Memphis, nickels or whatever the fuck it was. He just hit people with them. And
which coin do you think would hurt most? That's the question.
In a real punch or a worked punch? Because I definitely think those are two very different things. If somebody hits me with a rolled up coin in any fashion, it's going to hurt like hell.
Right.
I'm not going to willingly take a punch. I would probably say nickels because they weigh more. I would imagine they would put more weight in the punch.
That's a good point.
This isn't a podcast about wrestling. We're discussing just terminal violence at this point, just assaulting people.
I mean, it's a very fine line. It's tomato when you really think about it. But yeah, no, it is solid. Whatever match, King's, he's biting Mankind. I think it's because obviously this is after half of his ear was ripped off. Mick Foley, maybe a year or two after, and King is like. That's the limb he's attacking. Like, that's the limb work we're getting in this match. Is him attacking that half a ear, biting the ear. King's being a bit of a savage in this one. And I thought this was a fine match. What'd you make of this little ditty here?
This is one of those I agree with you. Jerry Lawler, being 25 years into his career right now, did not need to be a focal point of this tournament.
In the semifinals of the King of the Ring.
Yeah, that just was completely unnecessary. Not that Crush or Goldust needed to be in the spot right then, but there were obviously more people on the card, on the roster at the time that could have been in that spot. Maybe going for the, looking back at it, maybe they were going for that, the oldie but goodie, like bringing in Trish or something. Like maybe that's what they were doing, was bringing in Lawler for this moment. But he was already doing some commentary work at this point. He was already he was still in that 50-50 split. And it's just did we need it? Not that I disagreed. It was a good match. It was short. It was a good comedy match for a PLE. Lawler did good work in it, rolling in and out of the ring, avoiding Mankind, talking his shit. It was good, but not great.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's with this shift in Mankind going from heel to babyface, I think they just wanted a reliable heel, like somebody that they would know would get boos. So maybe that's the situation, but.
Oh, he definitely got boos. He didn't even need to start talking shit. They were already booing him.
He's a hateable looking fella.
Yes, he is.
Pile drivers all over the place. King hits one on the floor. There's some brutal bump. Well, I guess it's more the second Mankind match that had the more brutal bumps, I think. But there were some brutal ones in this one. And in the ring, King hits his fist drop off the second rope, goes for the pile driver. Mankind backdrops out of it. King tries to do the sunset flip pin, but he gets caught in the mandible claw and has to submit. So Mankind wins and moves on to the finals to face Triple H. Pretty unique finish here, I think. Mandible claw, still a fairly new hold to the audience. I think it was a fun way to get into it, I thought.
I liked it. I'm always going to be a fan of the mandible claw, and I like the way they did it into the roll. You know what I mean? For him to go for it, and he just rolled through and got the submission on it at the end. It was a good, short, clean way to end a match that, again, wasn't exactly sure why Lawler was involved in the tournament to begin with. I get the build-up and all of that, but just a body at that point. And getting to Hunter versus Mankind was definitely the bigger story here.
I think, especially in hindsight, I would definitely agree. But we go backstage here. It's old Brian Pillman. He's yelling about something. I didn't really catch what he said, or I didn't really absorb what he said. But all I remember is that Stone Cold sneaks up behind him as he's cutting this promo backstage, attacks him, brings him into the bathroom, and gives him a swirly in the toilet. You ever gotten a swirly there, Will?
Never. I can
Have
honestly
you
say
ever given
that.
a swirly?
No. Even as a band kid, nerdy kid in high school, I never got a swirly. Like, it never really happened.
Yeah, I feel like, does that happen? Call in if you've ever gotten a swirly. I feel like that's like a very older generation. That
was before us, because I don't recall people giving swirlies in the late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it had aged out by then and we weren't doing it.
Yeah.
We were pantsing people in my school. That was the thing, where you would like run up to somebody and pull their pants down in front of everyone to embarrass them. That was the thing at my high school. We didn't really do swirlies.
What did we do? We did bean dips.
What the fuck is a bean dip?
That's when you go up. It's when you go up to somebody's like tits and like, or like you would generally do it to a guy. Yeah. I don't know if a guy would ever do that to a girl. I mean, I guess you could, but it's probably frowned upon. Yes. You go up to a guy, do like boom, boom, like up, down, then you do whatever. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
And then you kiss him.
Cup checks were also real big, like walking up and smacking a dude in the junk. That was real big.
I still remember a lot of those.
Swirlies. You ever have a swirly?
No, not yet. There's still time.
Kink unlocked. You never know.
What was I watching where that was? I don't think it was a porn. I think it was like, maybe it was a porn. No. Oh, it's Matt Ritter. Matt Ritter, I know you're listening. Call in. You know the video. Send me the link. But yeah, so Steve gives him a swirly, and that for it didn't really play in anything. I guess it's the Hart Foundation feud, but it was really just to be a dick at the end of the day. But that brings us to Crush versus Goldust. Crush, of course, representing the Nation of Domination, because when you think of the Nation of Domination, you think big Hawaiian guy with chains and piercings, and I always forget Crush is Hawaiian, by the way. I guess his tattoo on his face is like a Hawaiian thing. The
Maori tattoo or whatever it's called. I may be wrong for that and apologize if I am, but it's like the style of tattoos they get in the South Pacific. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So, but I don't think he's there. We're building towards, I guess, a restructuring of the nation here at the end of this match, but just kind of a random match in here to throw in between the tournament matches and what have you. Savio Vega is not out there with Crush. I think Crush is only out there with Clarence Mason and D'Lo at this point, because Savio and Crush have been having their beef. And we talked about how Goldust has had similar vignettes on Raw, like we mentioned, talking about his Dustin Rhodes days, the Natural. So another guy that we're trying to, I guess, ingratiate with the crowd, make him more relatable and what have you. What are your thoughts on this face paint for Goldust? I think it's very interesting. It feels very out of not the noise. There's something unsettling about it.
It looks like Goldust did his paint in the dark with his eyes closed and forgot which colors, because it looks like the colors are swapped. You know what I mean? It almost feels like there's something. It's like the Uncanny Valley, where like you see something and it looks like something you recognize, but that's not what it really is. It almost looks like Temu Goldust.
Yeah.
Like it looks like a ripoff of Goldust because it's so close and similar that it's just off enough that it's like, this isn't Goldust. This is just a lookalike.
Yeah, it's like Young Rock, like whoever they casted for Stone Cold. It's like, I think that's supposed to be Stone Cold, but that's not Stone Cold. That is what the kind of vibe I get here from this Goldust. Yeah, inverted colors is kind of my thought too.
It just looked weird. It looked different, and it didn't look put to it. I don't want to say it didn't look put together, because I love Dustin Rhodes, big Dustin Rhodes fan. This was not the move though. It looks like Bizarro Temu Goldust.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan. It makes me uncomfortable. But match itself here, the match had me very whelmed You know, it had me not quite half chubbed. It didn't make it go back inside, but it was just that kind of there. I don't know. What'd you make of this?
If this was a Matt Ritter show, I would have smashed this match.
Oh, yeah?
Surprisingly, I didn't going into it. I was like, Crush, Nation of Domination. I've always been a Gold Dust fan, but '97 Gold Dust with Marlena, I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, cigar smoking, like crazy Marlena out there with it. I was kind of lukewarm on it. Watching this match, though, then this is one of those like nostalgia kicks. You see Dustin Rhodes as Gold Dust do all of that shit in his prime with the slinging neck breaker and all of the stuff he does now, and you're like, this man deserved, again, like Ahmed Johnson, this man deserved a world title reign, and he never got it. Maybe not as Gold Dust, but as the natural. Like, there were various versions of Dustin Rhodes that works as well as he does that deserved more than an IC title reign.
I think like heel sinister Goldust has so much, like, the ceiling on it's so high. It's so much potential. Like, I think when he first came in, I thought the stuff he was doing was great. Even like the little tastes that we've got, like when he came back in 2002 at first, when he was like very at first when he was like very serious.
The
I thought it just always
stuff, fucking gold. I loved that.
It was what?
Oh, it was gold. Do you see what I did there?
Anyways, so whatever. Towards the end of the match here, D'Lo and Clarence Mason, they corner Marlena on the outside. Goldust comes out to save her, and does, I guess, and then just with a random DDT beats Crush, which I don't know why that's the move he decided to go with, but gets the win, and the more tension between the nation, because Savio was out there. I think he eventually came out, and they were shoving each other. So this whole match was really to further that nation dissension, I think. But the match was fine, I thought.
It was a good match, not great. Sleeper for the card. Like, given the names on the card, you wouldn't have thought Goldust and Crush would have had one of the better matches on the card. But given the first two were short because both winners had to work a second match, you know, which was definitely the match of the night, in my opinion. We'll get there in a second. But, like, this wasn't a bad match. Like I said, I don't know necessarily why it needed to be on the pay-per-view, but, like, wasn't a bad match. Just good, not great. Seems to be the ploy for this entire pay-per-view there, Kyle.
It's very top heavy, this show. I think it crescendos to the end. So at least that's something. I think we get a little better, or maybe not. I don't know. Let's see. Next, we got a 6-man tag match on our hands. We got the Hart Foundation, represented by Jim Neidhart, Owen Hart, and British Bulldog, taking on the team of Psycho Sid and the Legion of Doom. Who daddy? So Hart Foundation, they got a lot of gold. We got Owen with the IC title. We got Bulldog, inaugural European champion. And yeah, facing on some dirty Americans. I thought the energy to this match was fun. It was this match is pretty clunky, but it was in a way where I think it was just chaotic, and it had a lot of it had an energetic feel to it. So I was kind of a fan of this match. What did you think of it?
I liked it. Good 6-man tag match. I love LOD. One of my favorite tag teams of all time. So seeing them do good work in 97, medium to good work in 97, that worked. Right. Psycho Sid's never wrong. Like, he's one of those guys, just about no matter what you watch him do, you're just like, this dude was just cool as shit, like, all the time. Like, yeah, I loved his character work. He was big, he was mean, he was menacing, and he was another one of those wet guys who always looked like he just walked out of the shower. Like, every single time he looked drenching, soaking wet. So going into the match, it was one of those 6-man, get everybody on the card, let them get their shit in and put butts in seats matches. And again, my whole stigma through this entire episode is it's the same shit they do today. You know what I mean? We just had one of these in what was it? Not too long ago we had it, and they're building now with like the random throw off tag team with Sammy and Jay and Punk versus the Heyman and the fucking Rollins guys. Like, I like it. I don't necessarily think that we could build entire stories off of thrown together 6-man tag teams, but in this situation it worked. Again, I think that Bulldog should have defended the belt in the first pay-per-view after he won it, though.
No, I agree. The European title, I feel like, just fell off like immediately, which is crazy.
Midian pulled it out of a work bag and was like, "Hey, can I borrow this belt tonight?" And all of a sudden, Midian's the European champion. You know what I mean? Like, it was for a belt to be as prestigious as it is now, looking back on it, like it was not treated as such in the 90s.
No, not at all. Yeah, I mean, Sid is really the one that stuck out to me in this one as like, how couldn't he be this fucking monster of a human being? He's just so over still, like, and he's not with the company too much longer, I don't think. Maybe a couple more months, and then he's out of here. He's just like, he comes out, like the crowd's with him, and then whenever he's not in the ring, whenever like the LOD guys are legal, the crowd's just chanting for Sid. Like they don't want anything to do with Hawk or Animal. Get Sid in there. We came to see Sid. And then Sid gets in, and he barely has to do anything to get the crowd to erupt. Like he's like teasing this test of strength with Owen Hart for like a minute straight, and the crowd just like they're
just
bubbling,
eating it up, just waiting for it.
It's like barely, like one suplex was done in that whole exchange, and the crowd is just losing their minds. It's just like that's like a testament to like characters and like just connecting with the audience. You don't have to do all these crazy flips and crazy bumps to get a reaction. I think
the less is more mentality was Sid
Yes.
Vicious in a nutshell. Everything about him was less is more.
'Cause it's
Big
not
guys
like-
today watching this podcast, remember that. Big guys, less equals more.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Because like Sid, he's not like an athletic dude. Like he gets his hot tag and it's like really clunky, but it's like he's like a bull in a china shop, just like shoulder blocks to everybody, knocking everybody, choke slam to Bulldog. It's hype as hell. He goes to hit the power bomb, but Owen Hart with a flying sunset flip for the quick 1-2-3 out of nowhere on Sid. And the Hart Foundation gets the win, which is a big deal. You don't see a lot of pins on Sid at this point, so that felt like a big deal. The Hart Foundation were continuing to build those boys up, and yeah, just a good, fun match with a lot of characters that we all know and love. So no complaints there.
It followed very well in the path of like the not overbooked finishes either. You know what I mean?
Yes.
A simple pin for Hunter with the pedigree, and then the mandible claw, and then it was the distraction and the DDT that led to Gold Dust. Like this one with the sunset flip roll up. None of these finishes seemed overbooked or overworked. They all made sense, which was cool. And I think that goes to the pacing of the whole show. You know what I mean? Because there was not a whole lot. Even if it wasn't super great, there wasn't a whole lot that left me going, why? Why did that happen? You know what I mean? And I think that's important, is don't make me ask why. Let me know why it happened. You know?
It's very simple. Once again, sometimes the simple things work. But that brings us to the finals of the 1997 King of the Ring. We got Mankind versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Boy, howdy. These guys would have a few all right matches in the future. I think this is their first match. I could be wrong. At least their first pay-per-view match for sure against each other. So interesting to see the foundation of what this feud would become. But man, instant chemistry. I thought this was great. What do you think about it?
I think I put, outside of The Undertaker, I would probably say Triple H is Mankind's biggest rival. I think he had some of the best matches of his career with Triple H. In WWE specifically, rather. Let me put it into that bubble. Into the WWE bubble, specifically with Mick Foley's career. I think some of his best matches were against Triple H. And then it would be The Undertaker. Outside of WWE, I would put his Triple H feud up there with Sting. Like, to put it in perspective, like the Cactus Jack Sting to build Sting up in WCW. Like, I feel like that's what Mankind helped do with Triple H in WWE, is that Mankind was an established star and he helped build Triple H up to show that he was the main event, just like he did Sting in the early 90s in WCW. So to me, I would say this is the big kicking off point for what would be both of these men's biggest rivalries, or some of their biggest rivalries. Maybe Hunter and Shawn would be a little bit different, but like you would have to put the Mick Foley Triple H stuff up there as being like super important in their careers.
I mean, you're not right. That Royal Rumble 2000 street fight is probably my favorite match of either of their careers, at least top
The,
three for sure.
the trilogy of that. You had the street fight, then you had the Hell in a Cell, then you had a McMahon in every corner going into WrestleMania that year.
Mhm.
That was that was huge. Going into it at the time, it was the two biggest stars in the company. Mankind coming off of all his stuff with The Rock in '99, winning the title twice, going into 2000 with Triple H, who just won the title. There was a lot of moving parts in this story, and every single time they got in the ring, it was nothing but chemistry. Uncle Paul with the red hair.
Ooh,
It's
a handsome
I've
fellow.
got it playing right now because I restarted it this afternoon while I was working before and it's in the main event. It's the Undertaker versus Farooq match, and
Right.
Uncle Paul with the red hair just came across with the big Band-Aid. We'll get there, but
Yeah, it's
holy shit.
another thing that just looks a little wrong. It just looks like I shouldn't be seeing it. I feel you. But yeah, no, great feud to come with these guys, and a good opening match here for their feud.
Absolutely.
I will say, in the beginning of the match, because they're talking about a commentary is talking, how rich and well off Hunter Hearst Helmsley is, and JR asks Vince if Hunter has ever tried to buy the WWF, which I think is very funny with what we know now. Not yet, JR, not yet. But I guess he didn't buy it, but in a way, he did. I thought this match took a little bit to kick in for me, but I think it was a good slow build here, like in the first half of it, and then we get like a suplex in the aisle, which is something that like you would see it in Mankind matches, but nobody else was doing this type of shit, especially in WWF. Classic cactus elbow off the apron, double arm DDTs. There's a couple times in this match where Mankind has the match won, but China distracts the ref. I mean, there are some brutal spots in this one. Any stick in your mind? Any particular spots stick in your mind from this match?
The elbow, when they start doing the stuff on the entrance ramp, and again, I'll liken it back to the Sting stuff. One of the things Mankind was absolutely best at, and he talked about it throughout his career, was the ability to take bumps. He was like, if there was anything I was best at in my career, it was falling down. And you see it in this match because he sold everything well. He took a ton of damage. You thought he could win this match against Hunter, but at all the same time, it was just to put Hunter over and make him look like $1 million. And I think that goes without saying how important it was because Mankind's bumps. You know what I mean? The going off the apron, what is the apron? It's the hardest part of the ring, right?
Oh yes, I heard that somewhere. Yeah.
But that's the whole thing, was Mankind's career in a nutshell. Starting here in this first match, he has that uncanny ability to take just a shit ton of damage and make his opponent look really good in the process. And I think that's what he did here, and you really saw it in this match. And this is one thing I will give Mankind flack for. He only worked this kind of match at this point in his career. It was always the same 4 or 5 things. He would take the big suplex, he would do the elbow off the apron, the double arm, the double underhook DDT. All of Mankind's stuff looked the same. It was just the order of operations when he did it. And he was able to, again, keep it simple, stupid. And that's all Mankind had to do to get over.
Yeah, like even his most the most pure match that people go to with him is his match with Shawn at Mind Games, and even that had like announced table spots and a spot like you ripping the padding off the floor spots, so yeah. But it worked for him, Might have paid the price for it, but it worked for him. I mean, dude, this bump here, Hunter is like on the floor up against the barricade. Mankind just leaps from the apron. Like a reverse elbow, like a fucking Tajiri, like reverse elbow. I don't know what he had planned, but he just goes careening into the barricade. And I don't mean like he lands on his feet and like kind of hits the barricade. No, he just plunges head first into this thing onto the concrete floor portion. Like, this dude is nuts.
Zero regard for his own well-being, right?
I mean, risk reward.
You reach that point, like Vince talked about it, or not Vince, sorry, it was Hogan, who always was like, I didn't have to, prostitute my body out to
we already got their money.
Yeah. But looking at what Foley did, if Foley didn't do the things he did in 97, and prior, we would have never seen things like TLC 2. We would have never seen the build into the hardcore division. There was so much that happened because of the way this man wrestled and the style of wrestling he did that made it evolve. And I think that's important to remember about Mankind. And again, I'm a huge Hummer. I'm never going to say anything bad about Mick Foley other than the fact that he worked the same match every time he wrestled. But overall, like, it was just great. He had the ability to work the crowd, work his opponent, and still get over all at the same time, even counting the lights. So,
yeah, and
beat the shit out of himself.
No, yeah, for sure. And that's kind of like the theme of this match, and they really like hammer it home after the bell rings, is how like resilient Mankind is, because all this damage that's being done to him, the bump into the barricade, the neck breaker on the top rope, which looked gnarly. The pedigree through the commentary table, which is like a spot that's like very commonplace nowadays, but you didn't really see that back then. Only a handful of times they've done that at this point. And
cheap commentary tables with the pipe and drape over top of it and the little simple like TV monitors. Like, it was a little bit nice to see this old WWE.
It's just like another table. It's not like this big gaudy announce table they got now. It's just, it happens just like another table, just with a tarp over it. But and so, man, he goes to this announce table. He's taking all his damage. He crawls to the ring. I emphasize crawls because he's like really selling like all this damage he's been taking. And as soon as he's about to get back in the ring, China, with the scepter that's ringside, award the king. China smashes Mankind with it, breaks the scepter, and then Mankind gets back up after that and gets on the apron, but then Hunter knees him off of the apron into like a photographer ringside, like gives him a backbreaker almost inadvertently with his knee. And then he gets back in the ring. After all of this, he gets hit with the pedigree. 1, 2, 3, and that's what does it. New King of the Ring, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. What do we think about this decision? I mean, I guess it worked out in the end. I don't think there was any stakes here, right? It was just kind of just to be the king. No,
you just won the King of the Ring. This is a do-over, right? Because of the whole the outsiders leaving, the curtain call, because he was supposed to win it earlier than this. Then that shit happened, and he got punished because his boy was world champion and all of that. And then we got Stone Cold Steve Austin instead, and then he won it in 97. So it's like, did he really get punished?
Man, that's one thing that I'm glad that I'm watching all this stuff for the first time. Most of it, like, I'm seeing a lot of things that the internet has just lied to me about for years. That Sid was a bad wrestler, that all of this stuff, right? And one of those things is that Hunter Hearst Helmsley was punished for that shit because he became Intercontinental Champion like pretty soon after.
Within a couple months, and then he won King of the Ring almost a year, like the year later, because the curtain call was early 96, late 95.
And people always point to Ultimate Warrior coming and squashing him at WrestleMania. That was before the curtain call, so that had nothing to do with it. That just was Ultimate Warriors coming in. He has to squash somebody. Nothing happened. He might have been not on TV as much, but he was still pretty prevalent on TV. I don't even know if I agree with that. So yeah, and now he's here winning King of the Ring. So,
and then he forms DX and becomes arguably part of the biggest faction in the company's history. Like, maybe you're right. Maybe he wasn't punished, and the internet just made it all up.
I mean, he feeds into it a lot too. It's his redemption story.
Oh, was that it? Hooking up with the owner's daughter had nothing to do with it.
I had to learn to eat shit and like the taste of it. Did you, Paul?
Did you really? Really, Paul? Really?
The taste of shit is your father-in-law, but that's a whole
other story. I don't kink shame. If he's into it, he's into it. That gives me a lot of information I didn't need to know about Stephanie, though.
No, it's because Vince. He likes the poop.
Fair.
Allegedly.
So,
so good stuff here, and then they keep there's not a lot of pomp and circumstance for the coronation, which is kind of surprising because that was kind of Hunter's character at this point, but I guess now we're transitioning into that DX version of him, which is less about the bowing and all that shit. So I guess it makes sense. Maybe this is like the pivot point for him as well. So we got a lot of different characters going in different directions at this point, so it's probably just another one. Mankind's crawling to the back. He's like trying to attack Hunter, but he keeps kicking him down. So yeah, I think both characters got over super well in this one, and much more in years to come. But speaking of much more in years to come, we got Stone Cold versus Shawn Michaels, 1-on-1. No titles. Well, I guess they both have titles. They're both tag team champions.
They're tag champs.
My goodness. Partners fighting each other? What the heck? What the heck, Will? Did they need to be tag team champions?
Yeah, they did. The whole thing was like fighting is like the bar, like feuding to a friendship, only these guys never became friends and they hated each other their whole time. They were just the two best guys on the roster. So they got thrown together and won the tag belts, and that took them out of the main event spot. And then Farooq won the number one contendership, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like there was a lot of really cool points in this story going into it, with adding the belts with Austin and Michaels and having the two-man power trip before it was the two-man power trip.
Yeah. It's a real enemy of my enemy is my friend situation. They both have beef with Bret Hart and the Hart Foundation, so they've been teaming together to take them down on the Raws and stuff leading up to this, and they eventually won the tag team titles together. And I think I meant to do research on this, but I forgot. I think this was supposed to be Shawn versus Bret initially, but I think Bret wasn't cleared quite yet, so they shifted to Steve Austin here. And a lot of stuff in the pre-match deal. So Bret comes out with the Hart Foundation. They come out to do commentary. And so Bret gets in the ring first, though. Todd Pettengill meets him in there. He goes to interview Bret. Bret grabs the mic and tells him to get the fuck out. I'm paraphrasing, but Bret says that he's close to not being an invalid cripple. Time's coming for his retribution. So he's still dealing with the, I guess, ankle injury, I believe, at this point. So I guess he's almost clear. And he says his return match will be in Calgary, his home country, for the Canadian Stampede in Your House, which is a legendary match. And so Bret's announcing his return, and he goes over to do commentary. But remember, the commentary table was obliterated in the last match, and they don't have a mic for Bret, so Vince has to give Bret his mic. It's the whole thing. But then the officials come out, and they kick out the rest of the foundation. I love the Hart Foundation, man. I loved how, I think Brian Pillman added a lot to it, just because they felt like these just unhinged, uncontrollable, raucous guys that didn't care. I mean, I thought you didn't have a lot of that, at least in WWF. So I thought with Bret at the helm, I thought the Hart Foundation was great. What'd you make of these boys, this foursome?
One of my favorite versions of the Hart Foundation, I think, and I agree with you 1,000%. Brian Pillman, the deranged, off the hinges Brian Pillman. Brian's got a gun. I loved this version of Brian Pillman, and going into it, the back and forth between the companies, people didn't know who he was signed with or what he was doing, because Bischoff would book him without being under contract, and then he showed up on Raw, and it turns out he had already signed with WWE or whatever the fuck had happened. So we saw this dude within a month on both major shows, and then it's he comes into WWE and does
ECW,
all the,
by the way.
Yeah, and ECW. And he does all the deranged, loose cannon shit. And it was another, looking back on it, where it was just a really cool character. That may be my biggest takeaway from this pay-per-view, is how cool the characters were then. The in-ring work doesn't seem a whole lot different. It doesn't seem like we've evolved too much in 25 years. But overall, the character work in the 90s far surpasses the character work in 2025.
I agree. No, everyone had their own distinct characters. It feels like, I don't know, maybe over time you just run out of characters to have. Everything kind of feels like a rehash or just a different skin of a different character. But I don't know, man. Brian Pillman, he was a unique one. I wish we got to see more of him. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to. But
also, sidebar.
Yeah.
For the match at the Canadian Stampede, You want to know the 5 wrestlers that answered the call as a little tease?
Tell me.
Austin, Goldust, the Legion of Doom, and Ken fucking Shamrock main evented a pay-per-view in 97. That's a team right there, boy.
I mean, if you got, I mean, it's a United States team, I guess, is the idea, right? So, I mean, who else would you...
2 Texas boys. Where's Shamrock from? Do you know?
I'm going to guess...
Nevada. He's from Reno.
Is he? I would not have guessed Nevada.
Mm-mm.
He's one of those guys I feel like is from a different planet, though. So I can't really pinpoint.
The Parts Unknown or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, the Bowery, perhaps.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Something like that.
I will note here, JR, because after the Heart Foundation, they get kicked out. People, Steve Austin, Sean, they come out. JR says that Steve Austin has the personality of a rattlesnake, which I believe was the first time that was ever referenced.
Number 1. It always takes the first one.
Fun little nugget there. Did Sean seem out of it to you? Like, particularly in the promo before with Doc Hendricks? Because like in the match, like he's there, right? His athleticism, his timing, it's all there. But when he's talking, it's like this dude's he's not with it completely, I don't think.
This maybe Shawn Michaels. And by that I mean he was on the peak of whatever drug he was using in 97, because that's exactly what he looked like. And I love Michaels. He's 5 months away from the Montreal Screwjob. This is June of 97. November of 97 is Montreal. You know what I mean? So, which by the way was completely a work.
Oh boy. Don't open up that can of worms.
I'm not going to open. That's a different conversation for a different day. But if you look at Shawn Michaels' career at this point, the trajectory of where he was going, building up to that, it was again like knowing the history of what we know now in our 30s, almost 40s, at least for me. Looking back at what I did as like a 13-year-old Will back in the day, like I wouldn't have noticed that. Now looking back and rewatching this and knowing the history of what the demons that Michael was fighting and everything, like you look back at it and you're like, this guy was higher than I am.
Yeah,
like, he looked high as a kite.
But then he goes in the ring and is like, gives a fucking awesome match,
5-star banger. You know what I mean? Like him and Austin never did bad work together.
Dude, this match, because I've never this match never really gets brought up by anybody. Maybe it's because 97 was so dense with like good stuff, and the Bret is like in between Bret and Austin and the Montreal Screwjobs. Maybe this gets like lost in the shuffle a little bit. I thought the finish it was a non-finish, which I think ultimately takes it down a peg. I don't want to say this is as good as Bret and Austin, but there are a lot of parallels. I think just in terms of like the energy of it, like none of the moves are particularly like mind-boggling. It's a lot of brawling. It's a lot of
the press onto the concrete after he ripped up the pads and shit.
Yes.
Like going back to the Foley stuff, some of those spots, if Foley hadn't have done stuff like that, like would we have ever seen Austin and Michaels do it? Because they did a lot of stuff on the outside that prior to 97 WWE wasn't doing a lot of. They weren't ripping up barricades and doing hard bumps onto concrete and shit. And 96 shows up, Mankind starts doing it. By 97, we see people like Austin and Michaels taking these hard concrete bumps, and it's like a little innovation. But this was the core Michaels match. If you look at 97 Shawn Michaels, he had the black and white gear on with the zebra stripes. Like everything he did was almost like if by Montreal he was turned up to 11, he was at like an 8 or a 9 in June. He was getting geared up to be that over-the-top bad guy heel in Canada. And I think this was that starting point, and this was the catalyst. And almost like a passing the torch in a way. Because after this, you would see the skyrocket of Austin again and everything that him and The Rock would do going into the late 90s and early 2000s before Michael's back injury and everything, before he came back in 01. Like, 97 was a hotbed for a lot of cool shit happening in wrestling.
Yeah, no, you have your two biggest stars here, two guys that, like you mentioned, never did bad work with each other. I almost wish they had more of a substantial rivalry, but just where Shawn was in his career and the injury he was about to sustain a few months, maybe short of a year from now. Just a fun brawl. The crowd is molten hot for everything. These guys are just Stone Cold is red hot at this point already. People love Sean. There's also Sean's, he's had a few tag matches and stuff on Raw, but this is pretty much his return from losing his smile. So apparently he found it somewhere. So he's back. So all of the variables here, plus the stuff with the Hart Foundation that kind of set it up, but the crowd's way into it, and so am I watching it. A lot of ref bumps in this one. We got Sean whipping Austin into the ref, kills that ref, goes for the sweet chin music. Austin counters into a stunner, but there's no ref to make the count. And so,
what was his name? Nick Patrick? Isn't that the ref's name? Like,
no,
he was
Nick is in WCW at this point. It might have been Earl Hebner.
Oh, maybe it may have been Hebner. Like, the king of ref bumps were in the 90s because they were all doing killer work. I don't know why I thought Nick Patrick right off the rip. He was still at WCW. But, like, they were all taking really good ref bumps.
Yeah, I mean, we're entering an era where you need to.
In the 90s.
I mean, to this day, we're just fresh off the heels off of Orton versus Cena, where goddamn every ref in that, that area code was knocked out. Yeah.
People in the back are just laying out for RKOs and Randy's still in the ring. They're not sure what the hell's happening.
I don't even know who that guy is, but he's taking an RKO. Fuck him, I guess. But Austin goes to help this ref up. Or at least you're led to believe that, because then he stuns the ref, which I'm howling laughing at this point. It was just, the timing of it was so hilarious. It was so unnecessary, but it just fits in with, he's a rattlesnake, as JR says. So he stuns the ref, but then Sean's back up. Sweet chin music hits on Austin, but of course there was no ref. But then there's a new ref, finally. But then he runs right by the pinfall that Sean has to go check on the first ref. I was like, I feel like the order of operation, I feel like you make the count and then go check on the other. I don't know. Maybe I've never.
You got to check on your boys, man. Fallen homies or whatever, right?
You can't like make the count and be like, just look to the right. I guess you got to be like,
yo, Earl, you good, bro?
I mean, 3 seconds and then you can go. Like, you can take the 3 seconds.
The difference is 3 seconds, man.
Like, what are you going to do? You're not, doing CPR. You're just, hey, tapping on his back. You think you're gonna fucking help, Tildo? Actually, I think it was Tim White at first, because
Tim White. There you go. That's who I'm thinking of, anyways.
Yes. So Tim White was the first guy that got knocked out. Kyoto is the second ref that comes in. Breezes by Sean to go check on Tim White. Sean responds as he should have. Sweet chin music to Mike Chioda. Fuck that guy. He's out of here. Tim White then recovers, though. Eventually. Makes a slow count for a 2. And then Earl Hebner comes out to scold both Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels, because they both have done their respective finishing moves on different refs. And then he calls it just a double DQ, which, in hindsight, probably justified. I mean, you can't just be beating up refs, on purpose. That feels like it shouldn't fly. So a disappointing, result on a pay-per-view, but I thought the match was really good, and I think it kind of fed into the stories. So I didn't hate it. I would have liked to see a definitive finish, but as tag team champions, I guess you want to keep the idea that they're on equal footing. And I think the story was that they earned the respect of each other because they walked out with each other. Even though they were like jawing back and forth, they walked out with each other. So in their own way, they showed their respect for each other. So overall, I thought this whole package, good, solid package, good bulge.
It was a great bulge. This was definitely more than a little bit of a chub. I love watching like this match specifically, going back and seeing it was super cool to be able to see. And like you said, this is a lesser known pay-per-view. This definitely isn't a WrestleMania. It's not even a SummerSlam match. It's King of the Ring. And they still put on a 5-star banger like they were at the biggest show of the year. And that says something about their workload as workers in 97. Like, they weren't scared to put on a banger.
Yeah. An unsung gem, I would say.
Absolutely.
I feel like it's worth anybody going and checking it out if you have not, as I had not. So, but that brings us to the main event. Boys and girls, we got the WWF title on the line. We got the champion, The Undertaker, with Paul Bearer versus Farooq with the Nation. He's got Clarence Mason, Crush, D'Lo, Savio out there. Taker versus Farooq for the WWF title. It just feels like, as somebody who didn't get into wrestling until like 99 ish, like this just looks weird on paper. Um, I expected worse because it's like, okay, like I know in hindsight that Farouk would never really sniff the world title scene again. So I was like, oh, this is probably a disaster of a match. It wasn't a good match. Maybe no, I don't know. Maybe you disagree, but it was fine. I feel like it was more each of their internal stories what took precedent over them colliding against each other, which I think for a main event match, I feel like that kind of took away from it. But I don't know. What did you make of this? There's a lot to unpack. But what did you overall think of this?
Just like everything else I've said so far, good, not great. The thing was Farouk's goal to become the first person of color to hold the WWF title, the Undertaker's emotional struggles of having Paul leave and join Mankind, and then having to go back to Paul to get the leadership to continue to hold on to his title, like the Undertaker questioning himself, and then Farouk questioning if he's man enough to win the title. The buildup of the nation. We're about to get The Rock is about to come back from injury, right? Isn't he gone right now? And when when Rocky comes back, like that's when the Farouk Rock stuff really starts to like hit the shit really hits the fan. So again, for a B-list pay-per-view in the middle of the year, like this seems to have a lot of fucking meat on the bones for what would happen in the next year or two after this specific show.
Yeah. Big seed planter of a show. A lot
Absolutely
of seed being spilled on this one. But so like you mentioned, Paul Bearer, he went with Mankind. He betrayed the Undertaker, but now Mankind kind of abandoned Paul. So Paul is looking for representation, I guess. So he's going back to the Undertaker. Undertaker doesn't want him back, of course, because all he did. But Paul Bearer has blackmail on him. He has a little secret that he's going to unveil unless the Undertaker lets Paul manage him. So Undertaker begrudgingly obliges. And which, by the way, that leads Farouk had a promo before the match, and he was like, "Hey, don't be worried about Paul's blackmail. Worry about this blackmail," which
that's a fucking bar, boy. That is
cold.
A bar. Yes,
cold. I mean, it was just so good. So Taker's out there with Paul against his will. Nation comes out, which I mean, the presentation of the Nation is so sick. Even though some of the pieces involved are a little sketchy, but like just the posse, like that whole thing. Farouk is just like in this ocean of big dudes and leather and black. It's just like really cool visual. But then the bell rings and it's like, I don't know, man. Like Farouk in 97, Undertaker's actually been doing a lot of good work. I think that this title reign is like low key really good. His match with Mankind, his match with Steve Austin at the last In Your House was really good. So he's on kind of a heater at this point. And I thought this match was, like we said, it's okay. I don't know. Farouk just felt very stiff out there. Not like in a hitting him, not like a potato kind of way, just like physically. Just felt like even his selling felt stiff. I don't know if you got that impression or not, but yeah, this match kind of it was just there for me. I thought
it was good, not great. Like I said, the thing taking away from it was everything that happened during the match, like the Nation getting involved and Paul getting in and having to talk Undertaker into finishing him, and like everything that was happening during the match seemed more important than the actual work of what was happening in the match.
For sure,
like all the characters outside the ring that were getting involved. And looking at it from that story, like the blackmail side of stuff, like Paul himself wanted to be the focal point. Undertaker was trying to figure out how to keep his title. And for like I said, this was bigger than just the two individuals and maybe seemed a little bit overbooked. Like maybe they tried to throw too much into a B-list pay-per-view for us to keep up with because of all the moving parts. Because going back into it, this is one of those without the vignettes or without the promos, I wouldn't have remembered all of this shit.
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. Yes. I shout out Undertaker. So he goes for the old school at some point. The Nation is all out there ringside. Undertaker dives on him, but not a front dive. He just, what does he do? A coffin drop to the outside, onto which I mean
A good old fashioned trust fall.
Trust Fall Jones out there just leaping onto the Nation, taking
You
them
gonna
out.
catch a 6'10", 350-pound dude? You gonna stand there and just like catch him?
I mean, he got crushed. D'Lo, Savio ain't doing anything.
D'Lo's not very tall. D'Lo can't be more than like 5'8", 5'9".
But he's stout. Like
He
he's like a
is stout.
tree stump. Like you're not gonna move that. You know what I'm saying?
Let's see how tall D'Lo is.
Especially at
His real name is
97
DC.
here.
I didn't know that. 6'3". I was way off.
I guess he's always surrounded by big dudes, so you don't really realize how big he is.
Yeah.
But speaking of the Nation ringside, they eventually get up as the match progresses. Crush, it's like off camera. I don't know if you really caught what was happening here. I guess Crush shoves down Clarence Mason. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I don't know what caused it. But then that causes Crush and Savio to get in a shoving match. And now we got the Nation fighting each other. And and then Farooq turns around to try to calm them down, to try to control his boys. And then turns around, gets hit with the tombstone, and 1, 2, 3, Bob's your uncle. Undertaker retains. So kind of an anticlimactic finish. That's whatever, I guess, why overstay your welcome, I guess, right? So
Was this one of those situations where they put the title as the main event because it was the title, but Austin and Michaels should have been because they were the better match?
yeah, I think if Austin and Michaels had a finish, that would have closed the show for sure. But then again, I think, didn't Brett and Austin, they're in your house match, I think that was also a DQ finish, wasn't it?
Yes.
I forget. So, and that main evented. So, I don't know. That's interesting. Interesting thought.
I think that was something that the WWF did in a lot of ways that was bad, was putting the title in the main event. Four Corners elimination match, Paul Bearer for the vacant title. Brett defeated him. It didn't end in a DQ.
Yes. So, don't know. I guess they had a lot of faith in this Taker Paul Bearer story, and the Nation, I guess, was pretty hot at this point. But so Taker wins, beats Farooq. Taker he's holding this title, is whatever, we're done here. But Paul Bearer says, we're not done, pal. Choke slam that fella being Crush. So Taker choke slams Crush. And then Paul Bearer makes Undertaker choke slam Farooq, who's still knocked out from the tombstone. And then he does. And then Paul makes him do it a second time. And then Paul makes him do it a third time. Just endless choke slams. And who makes the save? None other than Ahmed Johnson. The fuck is going on here? Ahmed Johnson and Farooq, who have been feuding for a year at this point. Now Ahmed is saving Farooq. By golly, what do we have here? What incarnation is happening here? Is this Ahmed joining the Nation, perhaps?
Watching this, I was trying to rack my memory. Did Ahmed ever join the Nation? Was my question. Because I couldn't remember. I apologize for the dogs.
No, you're good. You're good. They are not Nation fans, I guess.
The dogs are not fans of the Nation of Domination. That is for sure.
I think that era is a little cloudy in my memory, but I believe at least he had to join it was like when Cena had to join Nexus. I think it might have been one of those situations. I think they might have tried Ahmed in the Nation right before he left. I don't totally remember the series of events there, but I guess I'll get to it eventually. But
trusty interwebs. He feuded with the Nation right before he left. So it looks like going through here, that was the whole thing. Was Johnson turned on WWE, blah blah blah. Yeah, no, he did join them, and then they immediately turned in August of '97, so 2 months later. So he was in the Nation for about 6 weeks before they turned on him, because by July of '97 he was out.
So much flux.
So a cup of coffee, as they say.
Because I've always thought the Nation was just Rock, Mark Henry, fucking
Farooq and D'Lo, right?
yeah. And then we got Crush, we got PG-13, we got Ahmed in
Fucking
there.
Owen Hart joins at one point.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, he's the
the Black Heart.
Yes. So yeah, Ahmed getting in Undertaker's face, trying to protect Farooq. Undertaker swings at Ahmed. Ahmed ducks and hits him with the Pearl River plunge and then skedaddles. So we got Ahmed taking out Undertaker to end the show. And I'll say this, it leaves you on a cliffhanger. It leaves you wondering what the hell is going on here. So pretty effective way to end the show as far as that goes. But Paul
Ahmed comes out first. He loses a match. And then he's the key point at the very end of the show when he takes out the world champion. And this is a good way to circle the whole episode back together. Is Ahmed Johnson was such a focal point of that roster and never got it. You know what I mean? That they would let The Undertaker take a bump from his finish after retaining a title, and Ahmed never got that push. And that is the perfect example of that. That you could take a loss and then still at the end of the night hit your finish on a champion and make the crowd go crazy. That's how you know he was ready to be champion and just never got the push.
It's fucking great, man. I'm wondering, like, if he stayed healthy, like maybe he's there through 98, 99. Like, does he ever get that? Well, like, where does he slot in? Like, where does that, like, who doesn't get the world title? And Ahmed does. Like, does he slide in, like, 98 against Austin or something? Like, I don't know. Where would you think?
If he stays in through the 2000s, think about that week time going into Vengeance in that 2000, 2001 range where Chris Jericho was the undisputed champion. Tell me if a healthy Ahmed Johnson stayed around through the 2000 break that he wouldn't have been as good or better of an option than Y2J.
You know, it's funny, like 97 to 2000, like in my head feels like such a long time, but like that was like,
yeah, it was like a snap of it's like literally a snap of the fingers is the way it feels. Because looking back at it, you're like, this is 97 and we're less than a year away from Mankind getting thrown off the top. We're less than 2 years away from, you know, all the Rock Austin stuff building. We're 3 years away from the first TLC match. And all of this is like in this nice, neat little WWE box that just gets fed to us over the next 4 years.
Dude, Ahmed Johnson would have thrived in like 2004 SmackDown. I mean, Luther Reigns, get him the fuck out of there. Put in Ahmed Johnson. Have him face JBL.
What was his name? The dude who won the ECW title at the end.
Ezekiel Jackson.
Ahmed Johnson walked so Ezekiel Jackson could run. Dude. You know what I mean? Because they were so similar in size and build. Ezekiel was a little bit not as good of a worker, but like, tell me Ahmed in that ECW system couldn't have been champion. You know what I mean? Like, he could have won one of the titles in WWE. Zero questions asked.
Totally. Ezekiel Jackson, Ahmed Johnson, throw Monty Brown in there and call them the House of Black. Folks, it's been a lovely day. It's been... Oh, geez. No, geez. But
that one got me.
Yeah, he's a special one. He'll have a nice little WCW run though, right? That went well, I think.
Oh, totally well. 100%. Right up there.
Well, speaking of I think King of the Ring was a pretty well pay-per-view. It wasn't well done. Well done is not a good thing, so I guess that wouldn't be the good. I was trying to bring it back to food, but it didn't really make sense.
It's a very medium pay-per-view. Right down the middle. Just about everybody would like it. There's not a ton of people. Like, if people like medium rare, they're still going to eat a medium. Most people who like medium well will still eat a medium. It was a medium pay-per-view. It was good and receivable for everybody in wrestling. Even if it wasn't the best.
Yeah.
Still digestible for everybody in the masses.
If you had to give this show a grade from 0 to 100, what do you think you would throw at it?
50.
50. All right, here, let me bring up the other scores that I've given to the 97 shows, just so you could see, like, in relation to other shows, if you remember any of these, just so we could be weighting on the same scale. Let me share this. Bang, bang, boom. Bob's your uncle. Share. All right. So we got these scores here. So 50 would be a low score in terms
Okay,
of
looking at the way they're weighted here, I would definitely put this.
Like if you're looking at like The Last in Your House was a 71, but Revenge of the Taker was a 53.
Let's say like 65 then, because I feel like the Barely Legal at 76. I feel like this, like looking at some of these, WrestleMania 13 only got a 73. Yeah, I would definitely say 60 to 65 then, looking at this rating, seeing how they're weighted.
I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. Definitely not the worst, but definitely not the best. But
Sold Out 97 was definitely a 52. I would have scored that one pretty low.
Well, you know what I give 100.
What is your 100?
William Gray, Botched Spots and Chair Shots, Rivet City
you're-
Radio. Oh, 100, 1,000. Breaking the scale.
Just right here. Just
Come
making
on
me
now.
blush.
Come on now. Always a pleasure having you. Where can everybody find you, taste you, smell you, and stick their finger in your belly button until liquid comes out?
You can do all of those things on the OF, but in all seriousness, if you want to find me elsewhere, check the link tree at the Will Gray. You'll find everything I do for Rivet City Radio, Botch Bots, and Chair Shots. If you go to hotlikesaucebarbecue.com, you will find all of my barbecue.
What is that called again?
Hotlikesaucebarbecue.com.
I might throw a purchase your way. I like a little barbecue sauce, smother it on my naked body, and see where the night takes me.
I would love to smother you in barbecue sauce, Kai. 100%.
Once again, thank you to William Gray from Botched Spots and Chair Shots for returning to the show. Always a good time with my boy Billy. Go check out Rivet City Radio, Botched Spots and Chair Shots, wherever you listen to podcasts, as well as live on YouTube, Twitch, Touts, all that shit, right? All that stuff is in the description below. Give them a follow on the socials. Do the same for me. Hey, you know what we got to do is hit that goddamn jingle, Bartholomew. WCW, ECW, WWF, who's the hardest promotion? Eric or Vince or Paulie? I think we can agree, though. Heck, Myers is the shit. Alrighty then. The hardest promotion battle of 1997 continues. We got WWF, WCW, ECW. Which company is better? Which company is hardest? At this point in time, June of 1997. Let's see. But first things first, well, just one more time, a quick recap of the score as it stands right now. WCW with 29 points, ECW with 25, WWF with 4 points. Let's see here if we have any changes here. First thing we got to do is grade this show. So we go over to by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm sharing my screen. You can follow along visually if you want to, if you're listening in audio and you want to switch over to YouTube, go ahead and do that. Give the video a like, subscribe, a comment, all that stuff, right? If you're listening in audio, I'll walk you through it as well, though. So we grade this show from a scale of 0 to 100, as me and Will did towards the end of that episode here. We were thinking 65-ish. And as I'm looking at this right now, I think it's somewhere in that ballpark, right? Great American Bash got a 71. The show, is it better or worse than Great American? I think it might be slightly worse. Slightly. Very slightly. Final Four got a 60. I think it's closer to 60 than 71. Maybe. I think 65 is pretty fair. I might even... the front half of this show is a real, like, drag. Not even really a drag. It's just like nothing's happening, it feels like. I'm going to say 64. I think 64 feels right because Shawn and Austin was a great match, but it had a non-finish, which kind of made sense, but it's still like it's pay-per-view, not like, yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good story progression, but just as a show in a vacuum, I think 64 is pretty fair. So we refresh this. And so WWF is still in last place in terms of average score. So we total up all the averages of each company and their scores. ECW remains in the lead in terms of that. They have an average score of 75, WCW with 72, WWF with 63. So we go over to the overall scoreboard here. ECW maintains that 15 points for having the highest average pay-per-view. And it's not all pay-per-views. It's all average, Super Show, PLE perhaps. So ECW keeps those 15 points. So no changes to the score. I'm gonna say this. So this overall section we got here: best TV, best in-ring, best out-of-ring. So this show was only like a week. I think it was actually before Great American Bash. For whatever reason, I did Great American Bash first. I don't really know why, but that I say that because I don't think any of these categories would change. Right now, we're tracking best TV, best in-ring, and best out-of-ring as WCW, which I think Nitro is just super hot at this point. I think a lot more happens on Nitro than Raw or, ECW hardcore TV. It's very hit and miss. Sometimes it's just highlights. Sometimes there's like good promos, and sometimes it's kind of a hodgepodge of stuff. It's not very consistent. Whereas Nitro, I think it's, for better or worse, it's very consistent. So it's just it's an easy watch. Nitro is. So I think WCW maintains best TV. In ring and out of ring, I think WCW, what it has top to bottom a well-rounded grasp on the in ring and the out of ring. In ring, they got everything from the cruiserweights to Steiners and Harlem Heat facing each other, just bulldozing each other, to DDP and Macho having that star power, but also the technical ability, to your Hulk Hogan's, and they just got it all right. The cruiserweight division is a main driver here. I think WCW is just doing it better in ring than any of the other companies, and out of ring, I think the NWO is very good. All the branches stemming from that, as well as even the lower tier stories in the cruiserweight division, the Dean and the Benoits and all that stuff. I think it's Ric Flair. There's a lot of good stuff happening in WCW, whereas WWF and ECW have one or two really good things, but overall, I think they're just not as well rounded. So all of that to say, no changes in the score yet. So now we move on to a section called the best. So now we're looking at more individual type things. So best match of the year, Brett and Austin, WrestleMania 13. No change there. Because we're looking at King of the Ring and seeing if anything changes based on that show, or I guess any of the TVs leading up to it. No match was better than Brett and Austin, even though Austin and Shawn was very good. It does not match what Brett and Austin was. Wrestler of the Year, Stone Cold. I mean, I think this show kind of solidified that. I've mentioned it before. It's kind of a battle between Steve Austin and DDP at this point. Maybe Taz is in there a little bit. But this performance that Steve did with Shawn Michaels on this show, I think I'm not kicking him off of this, basically, is what I'm saying here. So no change to the score there. WWF maintains those 5 points for both best wrestler of the year and best match of the year so far. And as a reminder, this is as of June of 97. So we're not taking into account anything that happens after, just the year up to this point. Character / storyline of the year, we're tracking Taz as the best. Heart Foundation is good. Austin is good, but I think we'll leave Taz here. Taz, the organic build of Taz and the stuff he's doing against, or with, Bill Alfonso and RVD and Sabu and Jerry Lawler, that's all really compelling stuff. And I think Taz is just the perfect representation to go against that. Very unique character, embodies ECW. So I think Taz holds on to this. So ECW maintains those 5 points. Segment of the year. Trying to think of what has WWF done recently that would even, because right now we're tracking Jerry Lawler's debut at WrestlePalooza as the best. There's been some good, Heart Foundation type stuff, but I don't think anything is better than listen to the WrestlePalooza episode if you have not already. Crazy segment, crazy segment. So I think ECW holds on to this 5 points. So now we move on to the worst. Look at that same criteria, but the worst of the year so far. So worst match of the year: Undertaker versus Sid, WrestleMania 13. Yeah, that maintains that holds. So WWF holds on to that -3 points. Worst wrestler of the year: Prince Iakea. I mentioned this last time. Like, we haven't seen the Prince in a while. So as time goes on, like if his impact isn't felt heavily, I don't think I could call him worst of the year. But as of right now, I can't think of anybody. I don't think you'll hold on to this by the end of the year. Crush, I think Crush used to be in this category. You know what? This Crush, because Crush had a shitter on this show. Fuck, man. Do I put Crush back in here? Crush is at least like a fun presence to have in the nation, whereas Prince Iakea is just like, why you put on some shoes, you dingus? You know what I'm saying? We're gonna leave it as Prince Iakea. So WCW keeps that -3 points. Worst character / storyline of the year. We're tracking Honky Tonk Man, Billy Gunn, Jesse James. Yeah, I think so. I think that holds. So WWF holds on to that -3 points. Worst segment of the year: Miss NWO. Boom. So no changes, I don't think, right? Yeah, no changes this week. It's a quick turnaround. Not a lot has happened in between last week and this week, so par for the course here. So WCW is still in the lead here, but we got about half a year to go, so a lot can change. But I think that's about all Daddy has for you guys today. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Always appreciated. Been a fun ride. Happy to continue it. I think next week we got I don't know what we got next week. Maybe I'll just come on here and do jumping jacks in my pantyhose and call that an episode. Would you guys listen to that? I'll do whatever it takes. I have no shame. If you're still here, God bless you. God bless you. But hey, you have a lovely day or night or morning even. All right. Love you guys. Mwah. I'm hard.
Yeah. And the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it. Let's get it started. It's the hardest, talk around and disregard it. Strip you off the ground, show you what hard is. Standing strong and proud, nothing can knock it.